Alright, so I'm back with yet another quick Pauper deck tech. So the list I've been brewing around with lately is a 7-land Balustrade Spy deck. So Balustrade Spy, there are those fringe combo decks that use it in decks that run, I think, just one land. Because Balustrade Spy is 4 mana for a 2/3 with flying, and it says when it enters the battlefield, target player reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, then puts all those cards into their graveyard. So if this enters and there are no lands left in your library, this will just automatically mill your entire library, which is obviously quite an intense effect. And once we've dumped our entire library into our graveyard, we have multiple ways of potentially winning from there. So this list, rather than running 1 land or 0 lands, is running a full 7 lands, which is quite strange in a way. It's definitely an odd deck, but I've been having a lot of fun with it. So this is not sort of an all-in combo deck that's trying to combo off as soon as possible and just be a full-on glass cannon with only one way of winning games. This deck wants to just play quite a lot more creatures and sort of just have an alternate beatdown strategy in the case that we don't get our combo off. And what kind of helps us in that endeavor is the cycling creatures like Troll of Khazad-dûm and Generous Ent, because we are running 7 lands, so we need lots of spells to tutor or ramp into those lands. And the Troll and the Ent pull double duty as means of searching for those lands and also as threats that we can drop in the late game. So I guess I will start off with the cards we use to tutor for our 7 lands. And our 7 lands are 3 snow-covered forests and 4 woodland chasms. So Woodland Chasm is a snow land, which is both a swamp and a forest. So you'll notice with our lands, all of them are snow and all of them are forests, meaning we can use effects that tutor for forests and effects that tutor for snowlands. So on the forest side, we've got some good options like Nature's Law, 2 mana for a sorcery. It says search your library for a forest, put it onto the battlefield. So what's notable about this is that the forest enters untapped. So we can tutor for our basic forests and then tap them for mana the same turn. Then essentially exactly the same thing is 3 visits, which also brings a forest untapped. Then we are also using Land Grant, which is amazing in this deck. So it's 2 mana for a sorcery. It says search your library for a forest and put it into your hand. But there, it's important to note that that's not a basic forest, so it can tutor for Woodland Chasm. But then the thing about Land Grant, which is especially cool, is it has an alternate cost. So it says if you have no land cards in hand, you may reveal your hand instead of paying its mana cost. So this is generally a 0 mana tutor, which is fantastic for us. Then our final ramp sorcery is Into the North, kind of like Rampant Growth, but for snowlands. So 2 mana for a sorcery, search your library for a snowland, put it onto the battlefield tapped. So again, this can tutor for any of our lands. Then on the 1-drop side, we have Abundant Harvest, 1 green for a sorcery. It says choose land or non-land, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put it into your hand, and the rest on the bottom in a random order. So this we can use to tutor for a land. But then what's also cool about it is that once we have tutored all of our lands out of our deck, this doesn't become entirely useless. It becomes card draw. Well, it just cantrips and draws us a single card. I mean, it's not amazing, but at least it's not like the other ramp or land tutoring effects that just become completely dead once you have no more lands to tutor. So, okay, before I continue with the deck, I guess I should explain how the deck is meant to actually win games and kill the opponent. So, the strategy here is step 1, we tutor our 7 lands out of the deck, so there are no lands left in the deck. Then, step 2 is to cast Balustrade Spy and mill our entire library by targeting ourselves. Then, we unearth 2 or 3, depending on how many we need, copies of Dregscape Zombie. So it's 2 mana for a 2/1, with an unearthed cost of 1 black. So you can pay 1 black to return it to the battlefield with haste, exile it at end of turn. So that's why we need 7 lands. Well, I suppose we could get away with 6, but that does make us, quite vulnerable to, removal, etc. But we could get away with 6 because we only need 3 creatures on the board, and we will have the Balustrade Spy. So Balustrade Spy plus 2 Dregscape Zombies to flashback Dread Return. And the creature we want to flashback is Lotleth Giant, of course. So 7 mana for a 6/5. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. And as you can see, we're running 31 creatures, so we are pretty much guaranteed to have over 20 creatures in the yard once we've milled ourselves with the Balustrade Spy. So, so that's how we mill ourselves and how we win games. So, the rest of the deck is just a bit of ramp in the form of cards like Llanowar Elves. Then we also just have some alternate sort of heavy hitters. We have 2 copies of Avenging Hunter. We have 1 copy of Tangle Golem, 7 mana for a 5/4 with affinity for forests, just because it's easy to cast. I mean, this is probably not ideal. The deck list is still pretty rough and, changing all the time. But basically, the point is we have some slots in the deck that can be used just for powerful creatures. And then the final creature we have filling that slot is we have 3 copies of Gomag Angler. And the Delve is pretty nice since we, have things that we cycle or just spells that we cast. So we are filling up the graveyard. And so that is the deck in a nutshell. And then, oh right, one last card that I should mention of interest is Dimir Houseguard. So it's 4 mana for a 2/3 with Fear. But the main reason we are using it is because it has Transmute. So you can pay 3 mana to discard it, search your library for a card with the same mana value, put it into your hand, and with this we can tutor for Balustrade Spy. So in testing, I've definitely found it better than I expected it to be, and also just very fun. And what's cool about this is that it's technically not a combo deck because we just need the 1 card. We just need, once we have all of our lands out of our deck, and we cast the Balustrade Spy, all we need is the Balustrade Spy to combo off and, go for the kill. So I will continue to refine the list and post updates and see what works. I think I will try out a 6-land version, although the 6-land version does, make us quite vulnerable, I think. But it's worth considering just because it will be faster than 7. And then the sideboard, so just because you're guaranteed in game 2 to be facing tons and tons of graveyard hate, which your opponent will most likely be running and will bring out against you. So I've kind of been at the moment using a bit of a transformative sideboard where I basically just take out Dimir Houseguard, etc., and just put in more threats, so I'm less reliant on the combo and I can just try to smack through. So that's why the Tangle Golem and Avenging Hunter are there. Then Fairy Macabre is also just to hate on other graveyard-based strategies, and it's good because it's a creature, so it counts toward our Lotleth Giant damage. And then just to, proactively remove counter spells, etc. from the opponent's hand, I'm running Duress and Distress. Alright, so I will end it there. I mean, that is the deck in a nutshell. It's a very random deck, but I do like it a lot. And despite the fact that we have 7 lands, because we have so many ways of tutoring for them and also ramping, we actually tend to have a lot of mana relatively early on, meaning that we can, drop or hard cast some of our threats pretty early in the game. But as usual, if you have suggestions for the deck or for the channel or for how I should make the videos, please let me know in the comments. Same goes for ideas for decks, etc. And if you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. That really does help the channel, and that way you'll also get to see more of the brews and lists that I post. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.